Hey guys, it's Jaden here from Couch the Mind, clearing the mind one couch talk at a time. On today's episode, episode 20, I'm going over the topic of awareness with Michael Harrison. How's it going, mate?
Good, mate. Good to have you on. Oh, good to be here, I should say. Thanks for having me on.
Honestly, it's a pleasure to have you on the show for what you're achieving. For those who don't know, Michael, he actually runs his own Down syndrome fundraiser just to create awareness for this particular issue. He just wants people to have an understanding of what Down syndrome is, so that so it makes people much more aware of what some people actually have to live with on a day-to-day basis. Hopefully, through this particular subject, you guys might learn a thing or two. I know for a fact that I will. And that's pretty much all I have to say. And I'm going to hand it over to Michael now, and he can share his story from the start. And I guess maybe where he could potentially start off with is having to raise a son who's got Down syndrome.
Yeah. Cheers. Thanks, mate. Appreciate that. Just give you a bit of a background. My son, Xavier, he was born with Down syndrome, which is, it's a genetic disorder, I guess you could say. It's trisomy 21. So that's where what we do is raise funds and awareness for the Tri21 series, which is dedicated to people living with Down syndrome. And that's a play on words. So a person with Down syndrome has 3 of the trisomy 21 chromosomes, which causes a genetic disorder in them. Most people would have seen or come across people who live with Down syndrome. So, I guess people who live with Down syndrome are like you and I. They love the same things as we do. However, things are a little bit slower. It is a bit more difficult. My son, Xavier, he's now 13. He has some mental challenges. He has a few coordination challenges there. So that's where the main the main thing is that mental disability that they have, and some of the challenges. But I said that they want similar to what we have. They want everything. They want to go to the pub. They want to play sport. They want to do everything like that. Unfortunately, they're just sometimes a little bit slower off the mark, which can cause its own challenges within life.
Sure. And I guess maybe earlier on life, obviously your son's a bit older now, but when he was a bit younger, was it difficult bringing up a child who's got Down syndrome in terms of maybe just a simple basic things, whether it be making friends? Because obviously, and I mean this in the nicest of ways, some people unfortunately look at people differently. And I hate to think, I hate that part of society. But as a parent, how difficult was that to overcome certain hurdles such as that?
Yeah, look. I think there are some challenges, and the world can be a cruel place at times. And look, it's for us. We've had to work our way through that. If we look at Xavier, where is at the moment? This morning, for example, he was trying to tell me about the police. We were playing some game where I was chasing him around. And he couldn't get the word police out, And I know that there are a lot of other people with a lot of disabilities out there, but he was trying so hard. So he struggles with a bit of communication there. As I said, the world growing up, the world can be a tough place. And some examples of that, I remember we put him into mainstream school. When he first started, we tried that. Unfortunately, it didn't work out, and we had to send him to Darling Point Special School. But he went along to a birthday party, and it was a group of kids. They were about 5. They were playing soccer, and he couldn't understand the rules. He couldn't keep up, and he ended up. They were getting frustrated with him, and he was left behind. He didn't know really had what to do, and it just made my heart melt, seeing him there trying to keep up, but he couldn't understand the rules. And that's one of the challenges, that communication, like I said before, just keeping up with the mainstream society. And as I said, that they want to play the games, they want to do everything we do. But as I said, one of the challenges is communication and keeping up. But in saying that, what I will say is that at the end of that day, they gave all the kids a medal. And of all the kids that were there, I did note that Xavier was the only one. When he got his medal, he said thank you. And I thought that was a really nice thing, and it made me really quite proud of him that day.
No, awesome, man. That's a fantastic thing to hear. And for those who may be listening in, maybe whether they're parents of a child who may have Down syndrome, overcoming these hurdles, what have you learned through some of the things that you've been faced with, and maybe some positives that you could probably take out of these potential hurdles?
Look, I think the biggest thing I've learned, and my wife and I have learned this, and look, it's easier said than done, is that,
Yeah.
don't sweat the small stuff. Pick your battles. Some days it's just not worth fighting, not worth the fighting. If Xavier doesn't understand, or the communication is a challenge, or he's being a bit stubborn, like all kids can be. Pick your battles, pick your time to fight, and stay positive. That's the other thing. We just got to stay positive, pick your battles, and look at look at the bright side. I often say there's always someone worse than you. So you look at it from that aspect, and you look for a bit of positivity. Try and find a win in every day.
Honestly, I think if you have that sort of mindset, any battles you may be faced with, or you might break your leg, or something negative, or traumatic may happen to you in life, and to have that outlook is such a good thing and such a handy thing to have, and for you guys to be able to do that, you must be proud of yourselves to be able to be in that headspace to overcome it and get through the toughest of times.
Yeah. Oh, look. Let's be honest. It's not always easy, but we do know that
Yeah.
we have to push on and get there. I said, there's always someone worse than you, but when you look at it as well, you wouldn't swap him for anything anyway. So as I said, what we have is what we have. We all you play the hand you dealt, and as I said, we just make the best of it. When I was when I first got the news about Xavier living with Down syndrome, and I actually said to myself that day, I remember sitting on the couch in the lounge room, and we got the news, and we were quite a bit upset, and I just thought, you can spend your life kicking stones, or you can actually make a difference. And from that, I've set myself the goal of actually making a difference. The day Xavier was born, I promised him that I'd always be there for him and always see him through. And I guess if we look at the Try21 series and what we're doing here to raise funds and awareness for people living with Down syndrome, that's my promise to him, which I gave him on that first day. And I said, you can kick stones, or you can make a difference. And we're looking at making a difference.
That's awesome, man. And in terms of making a difference and starting up this fundraiser, Try21 series, when did that actually come about?
It came about in 2012 was our first day, and it literally started off with I just started playing indoor cricket at the Action Indoor Sports Wynnum, and I'd been there 6 months or so, and I sent the team captain. I didn't know anyone there at the time. A message saying, "What about we do this?" And that first night started with 2 teams, so 16 players. We got in there. We had an awesome night. Had a game against a couple of the locals there, and at the end of it, the sports center owner came up and said, I think we should do this every year. And from there, we've just made it grow every year. We've pushed on it, and no boundaries. So every year there's always been the goal to exceed what you did the year before. And I must admit, I've become a bit obsessive with it, pushing on with it every year. And this year, to the extent that even in a COVID year, with all the challenges that everyone had to face, we still had over 50 teams rock up on the day. We had nearly 400 competitors. We were a little bit down on last year. We had quite a few sponsors, businesses who paid money to be involved in it, and it's really set the platform for us to get back to, next year to where we were in 2019 levels, and that's despite everything that's happened in the world. So I think a lot of people see what we do in a positive outlook. I think there's a lot of awareness which has grown in the local community about it. And, and like you, we're just out to make a difference, and we're to help someone. And I think what we're doing is heading us in the right direction.
I mean, you must feel so proud of yourself, knowing that, especially in such a terrible and difficult year of 2020, having gone through COVID, the fact that you've come out and still had 50 teams wanting to be a part of this fundraiser is acknowledgement to yourself, knowing that you have been able to spread awareness to these people. Like, these people are willing to come back. They know how terrible and difficult this year's been, but they want to set aside some time to be a part of this fundraiser again.
Oh, very, very much so. And it was only a few months. It was June, July. I think it might have been in June. People were saying to me, "Oh, maybe we should just give it a rest this year. Maybe take a year off." And my thought, I thought about that for about 2 seconds, and then I said, "No, we've got to push on. We've got to keep going. We can't lose the momentum we have." But it's also the people who go there and who are involved in it. It's such a special thing for them as well. So we need to, in a year like this year where it's just been terrible, so at least everyone's needed something to hold on to. And for me, this is this is one of my things to hold on to and to push on with. And for Down Syndrome Queensland, they suffered with the economic downturn as well. It's impacted their ability to provide services for the community as well. So every cent that we make helps them. And as I said, there's no way we could let it drop. And as I said, that the amount of support and community involvement this year has been outstanding.
Yeah, exactly. It's honestly amazing. I think anyone who gets behind a particular subject, such as the one you're funding to fundraise about in terms of Down syndrome, I think once you understand some of the things that people living with Down syndrome are going through, you want to do anything in your will to help out and give back to the community in any way, shape, or possible.
Yeah, I agree. One of the things that we're really pushing for as well, and being Tri21 being a sporting event, is that Down Syndrome Queens are actually piloting a new program to get kids living with Down syndrome into mainstream sport and get them out playing sport again.
That's fantastic.
I think I mentioned to you the other day is that I've heard stories about kids with Down syndrome. There's this one girl that I met, and she loved netball. She played when she was growing up. She played it all the time. It was her favorite sport. Is what she just loved doing. And she got to the age of 13. And the reality is, and for good or for bad, it's just the way life is. Once you get to the 13 age, it starts to get a bit more competitive and a bit more serious and a bit faster. And she quite simply couldn't keep up. She couldn't understand the rules. She couldn't keep up with the games. And in the end, she had to give away the sport she loved because there was nowhere to play and she couldn't keep up with all the other kids her own age. And because, of course, she can't play against kids younger than her. And so our money that we're raising is being directed into a program towards setting up to help kids play the sports they love. And us being a sporting and fundraising event, it's a perfect fit. And to giving them the opportunity that you've had, I've had, we've all had to play sport and get out there and be active as well, without having the fear of having to give it away once you get to a certain age because you just can't keep up with the mainstream.
Exactly. And I think everyone, regardless of, whether you're someone who does have Down syndrome or, of a particular age, demographic, ethnicity, it doesn't matter. I think what we have to remind ourselves is, as humans, we're all equal equal people and beings, in that we should all have equal opportunity. And to provide Down syndrome guys and girls with a platform to be able to play sport at that particular age, competitive at a level that they can compete at, is something that it should already be a part of this, of this community. But obviously it isn't right now, and you guys are doing a fantastic thing to make it like a normality one day.
Yeah, look, that's the goal. And look, I get what you're saying. Totally that it should be, but the reality as well is that the kids, and everyone, we all have a competitive element in us, and I think that it's, at the moment it's probably maybe not an even playing field, but this program will allow these kids to have the opportunity to play at a level that is a level playing field, and get the opportunity to be out there, and that'll also boost their engagement in the community, their involvement, and their self-esteem as well. How good is it? I'll give you an example. Last weekend, we actually had our netball competition, and the team from Down Syndrome Queensland won the social division. So we had 3 divisions, a ladies division, a mixed division, and a social division. The team from Down Syndrome Queensland won it. And to see those guys living with Down syndrome when they won this competition, you would have thought that they won the World Cup, the Netball World Cup, the way they just, the smiles on their faces, to get a trophy, to get a little medal at the end, a trophy at the end, it was just the biggest thing for them and for everyone. And that is what it's all about, that involvement, and their self-esteem would have gone through the roof. Everyone's self-esteem went through the roof because it was such a great sight to see.
It actually does make me choke up a little bit, knowing that it's, it means so much to them just getting that medal and being able to participate in something that they weren't able to participate in, in the past at a competitive level. But in terms of, your fundraiser, for those listening in who may be potentially wanting to be a part of a potential team, whether it be through volleyball, cricket, what else?
Netball.
What else? Netball.
Yeah, it's indoor cricket, volleyball. So it's like beach rebound, beach volleyball, and netball. So we played over 2 days. And we're looking at always expanding, getting as big as possible. For that, we're restricted this year with numbers due to COVID, but moving into next year, we're getting back to our normal level. So we'll have more opportunities for people to be involved.
Yeah, and in terms of registration, how would you go about doing that?
Okay, so you can have a look at our Facebook page, Try 21 Series. We're also on Instagram, Try 21 Series, and we have a website, www.try21series.com.au. So we're out there. If you go on the Facebook and flick me a message, it'll come to me, and I'll get back to you within 24 hours. I'm always looking for people to be involved and people who just love sport and love making a difference, and that's what we're about, is making a difference and doing it in a fun and social way that we're getting enjoyment out of as well, but we are actually impacting lives at the same time.
Exactly. And for those who may be on that picket fence, they don't know if they want to give back to the community or give themselves to a fundraiser and help raise awareness. Why do you think it, obviously I know your reasoning behind Down syndrome but for fundraisers in general, why do you think it's so important to just get yourself out there and get involved?
Oh, look, I think for everyone to be involved, and community is a very big part. We should all be giving back to community in some way, I believe, because it does help others. And I said that there's always, there's an element out there that, we live in a world where we need to help others, and we should be helping others as best as we can, because, if the boot was on the other foot, you'd want a bit of help as well. So
exactly.
I think for all of us, we should try and get out there and do our bit for community, not just us, but as I said, every charity, everything's important. I appreciate as well that, let's be honest, we can't give to all of them, but you can support ours. That's always a winner.
Mate, don't you worry. I'll be supporting you guys for the long run. That's for sure. And especially for next year, I'm wanting to chip in quite a bit of money, because I generally, it comes from a good place. I generally want to help you guys out and help you expand on what you guys are creating awareness for.
Yeah, thank you very much. And look, I'm glad that we crossed paths through David.
Yeah, vice versa.
Yeah, that's what this is about as well. This started for me as 16 guys getting together. Again, I didn't know anyone when I started, and now over time we start to expand out, and we seem to be meeting new people every year, because I think generally, we live in a great country, a great society, and everyone wants to help. And in some way, shape or form, everyone wants to help. And if anything, that's a testament to how good Australia is and how good the world is. It's not all doom and gloom.
Sure.
And every year new doors open up. I meet people like yourself. Throughout our time, we've had Cricket Australia have taken a bit of interest in it as well. And it's just expanding to different businesses, different outlets and new connections. And, the goal is just to keep it growing, keep it moving. And as I said, through people like yourself, you're a platform to get the word out as well. And if we get big enough and spread enough the word enough, the world is going to change. We're going to move mountains, and the acceptance and awareness will grow. And we're all a piece of a big puzzle. And I think that every year we start to expand out. And as I say, the connection between myself and you and your listeners is a really important one. And that's why I'm really glad and thankful that you've had me on today.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate it. For what I'm trying to achieve, it's very much similar in that I just want to help people talk about things that they may be struggling with and create awareness for certain issues and or things that they might have in their mind. And by doing that, if I can help at least one person, ultimately that one person could potentially pass on a message to someone else. So in the long run, we are creating a bigger and better world.
I was actually listening to one of your podcasts this morning, and basically every Sunday morning I do the ironing for work, and I put your podcast on this morning and listened to one of them, and I mentioned you that I felt quite inspired because
thank you.
The gentleman's name escapes me who was talking, but he made the reference of you need to talk, you need to communicate with people, don't bottle things up. And if I look back to my own scenario, when we first found out that our son was going to be born with Down syndrome, I did the you must be strong, can't share anything, can't show any emotion, typical male thing that we do out there. And I even at my computer at work, I had stuck a little post-it on there saying you must be strong. And then and I was and it was just, but the reality is it was just eating me away inside. I didn't talk about it. I became really distant. And the night that Xavier was born, I remember getting home and I just burst into tears on the balcony, and it's like the emotional genie just got out. And then after that release, the world was never the same. Everything changed for the better, and I felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders after that. And so, if anything, I said that listening to that podcast this morning reminded me of the need for all of us, I guess, that you've got to talk, you've got to communicate, and don't feel that you have to carry the burden all alone, because you don't.
Yeah.
And there's other people out there. So, if anything, that's a great message that I got out of one of your podcasts this morning.
Thanks, Michael. Appreciate it. Yeah, and exactly, like, whether, you know, your family might be going through a difficult time, sometimes as blokes we have a tendency of becoming the rock, in that we don't want to share our emotions because we think that we're going to burden them with our problems and make the issue a lot worse than what it already is. But you have to remind yourself, allowing yourself to become vulnerable is something that should be a normality, in that if you're struggling, doesn't matter what situation someone may be going through, you've just got to allow yourself to open up and talk about anything that might be on your mind, because at the end of the day, the more you hold on to, ultimately you might hit that point of realization when you burst. And unfortunately, sometimes the emotions that you let out aren't let out the way that you want them to be let out. So why not talk about it when you can talk about it civilly before it becomes too much and you don't know what to do?
Yeah, and look, I remember hearing saying, you know, and I often reflect back on that time as well. And it's being honest with yourself isn't being weak. It's actually a true sign of strength, you know, and to really open up and be honest with yourself. So I think that's something, is that, and I can speak from my own dealings with it. When I found out my son was going to be born with a disability, I probably didn't handle it as well as I could have, but it's a learning. And, you know, if we do it again, if it happened again, I would handle it differently, you know. And as I said, you know, there's always, I sometimes think there's always people out there who are doing it worse than you. And I remember one day when he was little, he was actually in hospital, and I was in the children's hospital at the Mater with him, and the two of us were I was sitting on his bed, and we were watching the Wiggles, and we looked around the room, and, you know, there's one bed, you know, with lots of machines beeping and everyone's standing around there. Another one, you know, another child had been in there for hospital for weeks, and another one, another child in the other corner was very, very quiet. And Dad was in there, and I just looked at my son, and I thought, you know, he might have a disability, but geez, we're lucky. We're actually lucky to have him with us, because, as I said, there's a lot of people with a lot of challenges out there, but we're actually very lucky, and it's what you make of it, and it's the attitude that you have which really makes a big difference. And, you know, as I said, after just going back to that first night after I let the emotions out, the world has never been the same after that, and that was just a weight off my shoulders.
And maybe in summary, how do you actually kind of have that, I mean, what do you call it, that click moment in your head where you kind of realize and understand that, you know, life isn't that bad, that what you're going through and, you know, what you're having to do and looking after your son who's got Down syndrome, like, that is not that bad, that there could be worse things out in life that, you know, could happen to you. How do you hit that point of realization for people listening in?
Oh, look, I for myself is, I said, I think it's important to find a win every day. It's always important to find some sort of win, and, you know, no matter how small it is, just find some sort of positive thing. Look around you. You know, I look at, you know, for example, my son, just to see his smile. You know, or for him to come up and give you a hug, or you know, he has his moments, but just for him to show a bit of affection towards you. But as I said, but the key for me is, you know, you just got to look for a win. It's too easy to sit here and just find fault or find the bad things. That's the easy part, you know. But if you can just find some sort of win in everything, you know, it does give things a bit more positive. We all enjoy celebrating wins more than losses.
Oh, exactly. Especially when, in terms of the state of origin, when Queensland are up.
Oh, yes, we love that bit. We certainly love that
bit. But thank you so much for taking up your time, Michael. What you shared with me today is definitely lifted my mood. I mean, I'm in a pretty good mood as it is, but honestly, I feel like nothing can put me down anymore. your story, what you've been able to achieve with your fundraiser. It's an amazing thing, mate. And honestly, from me to you, I'm proud of you. And I think you're changing so many people's lives.
Thanks, mate. I really appreciate that. And look, I look at the what we're doing, the Try 21 series, and I guess the thing is that the road never ends, does it? And there's always something, there's always one more hurdle, and that's the inspirational part. I guess you go back, how do you take positive? You also always got to set goals for yourself and have something to aim for and work towards, and that's one of our things to get it bigger and better. And I'm glad that you're part of it moving forward.
Yeah, thank you very much, mate. I appreciate that. And yeah, if there's anything I can do to help and get the message out there, then I'll be there straight away.
All right, not a problem. Be careful what you wish for, mate, because I'll be on your case.
Thank you so much for your time, Michael. But this has been episode 20 of Couch in the Mind, clearing the mind one couch talk at a time. And today, Michael Harrison and myself, we went over the topic of awareness. So if you guys enjoy this video, I'll also leave Michael's social media accounts in the link below if you're interested in registering for Try 21 series.
Look, I just emphasize, sorry, mate, I'm just going to emphasize that no experience required. You don't have to be a great sports person. Anyone, it's a social day, so there's no experience required.
So thanks very much for listening, guys. And as always, if you need anything or need to have a chat, always feel free to message me.